Today I'm gonna demo how to use the Eclipse IDE to do cross debugging. What I mean is we cross compile a small C++ program and then we're gonna debug it. And part of this demo is we're gonna need a ARM64 board, and I'll show you first. I'm gonna launch the Eclipse IDE and create a workspace, a new workspace. In my other video, I've also demonstrated how to use the basics of GDB, as familiarity of the basics of fundamentals of GDB is important when working your way in the Eclipse IDE, as the fundamental principles is actually GDB, and the IDE provided by Eclipse is just a candy coating of the fundamental technologies involved here, which is GDB and the C++ compiler. So let me open a terminal. So I launched the IDE, but I have to emphasize that to do cross compilation, we need to have this one. So in my case, the cross compilation that I'm gonna do is for ARM64, and gonna have this, gonna need this. You can have this cross compiler. You can install this as a Ubuntu package, as it is provided by the Ubuntu repository standard packages, or you can download a tar gzip from Linaro, which will give you the same cross compiler for ARM64. So either way, you will have this compiler very easily by compiling as a package or by downloading from Linaro and zipping it into any location in your system. And then, of course, as by default, Ubuntu system always have the GCC, but you will notice that here, if we subtract these two words, this word minus this word, and the difference would be this guy here with a hyphen at the at the last part of the character. So remember that. Okay. So in addition, we also need to have this GDB multi-arch. So we have to install this apt install GDB multi-arch, as this is needed when cross debugging a remote ARM64 executable. I have another video that I discuss the use of GDB in the command line, and I explained there that GDB is only for local debugging. I mean, yep, for same architecture. But if you are debugging a different architecture binary running on a different CPU, that's the time that you're gonna need the GDB hyphen multi-arch. So now that the basics is there laid out, what's needed, let's go back to the IDE and let's gonna create a small application. Again, the purpose of this demo is not the complicated C++, but how to debug C++ running on a different architecture. So let's first create new and project. So we're gonna stick to the simplest path here, which is to create build a project that is managed by the IDE. So we're gonna avoid the make cmake and the make path. So we just let the IDE uh, control the project settings. So I'm gonna select this C++ managed build. So I'm gonna click next, and then I'm gonna name the project to uh, cross debugging. And then notice here that in the tool chain, we have to select this cross GCC if our intention is to cross debug an executable. So I'm going to select that, and to, to faster our explanation, I'm going to select this hello world C++ project so that it will automatically create a initial file with a hello world there. I'm going to click next, and I'm going to type my name here, click next, and then next. And here, if you remember, when I mentioned we're going to subtract this word minus this word, and what is left is this word here. Okay, this difference is what you type here. So this is a well-known practice in cross compilation. This difference here will differ depending on what is your intended target cross compilation binary. We have ARM64, therefore we are left with what with this guy here. So your case will be different, but just remember, you just have to subtract whatever is minus the GCC, and what is left is what you call as the cross compiler prefix. And the cross compiler path, of course, just user bin, as the cross compiler is located in that directory. And then click finished. Close this welcome page, and now we have this initial project created for us. Let me add a little function here to make this program more exciting. Okay, okay. Wait, the keyboard is acting funny here. Let me see. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, it's back now. We're back. So I'm going to create a small function, add num, there, and I'm going to call that function there. A very, very small program, but again, the intention here is how to set up the infrastructure to do debugging, cross debugging specifically. Save. So let's try to first build this project, build project, and everything built fine. And if we check the logs here, you can see that this is the C++ compiler that's used to do the build. Okay, there. But then how do we debug this? I can put a breakpoint, for example, here, there. But how do we debug this? Well, first, since this is an ARM64 architecture, clearly we cannot execute this locally in our machine. So we need another ARM64 target board running. So because we're gonna copy the cross-compiled binary there. I mean, we are not going to do that, but the IDE will do that. But in my other video, when I use GDB, you will see there that I am the one who manually copied the binary there. And then I manually run the GDB server in the remote board. So again, if you watch that video, you will see the fundamental basics of the flow. But since we're using the Eclipse IDE here, that flow is gonna be the IDE is gonna be the one doing that for us. But we need to tell the IDE the IP address of the remote board. So we're gonna go to launch configuration, new launch configuration, and then select debug, the launch mode, and then select remote application. It's gonna be remote because there's a need to copy the cross-compiled binary into the remote ARM64 Linux, either a Raspberry Pi or a Jetson Nano or a Jetson board, and then it will be executed there. Uh, Again, you have to watch my other video using GDB server so that you will understand the flow. But let us click next now. Okay, and if we select here, currently it's local, but we cannot do local debugging as we cannot execute an ARM64 in an Intel CPU. So we have to click new and select a new SSH connection. And then we're gonna tell the IP address that the ID is gonna copy the cross-compiled binary. And then it's gonna log in using the SSH. There, finished. And then you're gonna have to tell the where to copy these cross-compiled guy here. These cross-compiled binary, you're gonna tell the ID where to put it in the remote ARM64 board. So, well, let's just say um, put it into the TMP folder. Okay. But first, we'll notice that there's a browse button here. If we click this browse button, we're gonna be browsing the remote ARM64 board. See, it's logging in using SSH, and this is how the remote board looks like, the ARM64. But well, just since we can type also a TMP directory, you can just as well type the path here. Or, as I shown, you can click the browse button and select any folder that you want to where the IDE should put the cross-compiled binary. Well, let's just put here in the TMP folder. And then, as I said in my other GDB tutorial, cross-compilation will only work if you use the GDB multi-arts. And again, this Eclipse IDE here with all its glory actually just relies on the fundamentals of GDB. So again, if you know how GDB works in the command line, it will guide you in how to work your way into the IDE. Sometimes I find the IDE complicated and but it's a personal preference. Anyway, okay, so there, that's it. So we filled in what needs to be changed. Okay, and then gonna click apply, and then what else? Uh, Finish. Okay, so I'm gonna look for uh, this one, cross debugging. Obviously, that's not okay. New launched. Okay, let me see. Now I'm lost. Where to launch the debugging? How about here? Debug us. Obviously, it's not containerized. It's not local. How about debug configurations? Remote, and here it is. So, like I said, working your way in the IDE can be mind-boggling sometimes. See, after selecting this, there's a debug button here, and I'm gonna click this debug button. Okay, there's an error. Theme piece directory. Okay, so we made some miscalculations there. Let's see. Let's see. New launch configuration, or sorry about that. Let's go back here. Debug. We're gonna make some adjustment. I put here TMP, so I mistakenly interpreted this as a path, but this is including the file path. So cross debugging should be put also here. Okay, so that's the way, or any name, even app will do, or the same name as the as this one. Okay, let's just stick to the same name. There, apply debug again. Now it's gonna copy the binary remotely, and since we put a breakpoint, alas, we are now doing cross debugging. So while the breakpoint is there, if we log into the remote ARM64 board, see it's an ARM64 and it's an NVIDIA Jetson Nano. If you're gonna check for running processes, GDB server, and you're gonna see the same GDB server that got automatically executed by the IDE. Here, when we click debug, the IDE is doing all of this for us. Again, if you watch my other video on GDB, you will see that you have to gonna do everything manually. So you will understand the flow. That's why it's very important to understand the basics. But if you don't want to understand the real operation of things and just sticks with IDE, then that's up to you. But I'm just telling you that you have to really know how these things work so that in case something is not working in the IDE, then you will be able to survive those challenges. So here it's running, and of course this 2345 is a setting that is can be found somewhere here in the IDE. I don't know where, but it has to be there. So I'm gonna press what's this, F F F6 for step over, and since I want to go inside the function, I'm gonna press F5 there, and F6 again, F6, and the result is 7. We are now happily doing cross debugging from our desktop, where the executable is in either Raspberry Pi or any remote non-Intel x86 board that these we have cross compiled here. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.